What's up, guys? It's your boy Nico back with another video. Today we're going to be going over Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals between the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks. I just really wanted to make a video on this game because A, it was the highest point differential within the series of the Western Conference Finals, and then B, I think it really is going to highlight some of the major keys going forward for both teams, obviously for Golden State now that they're in the finals, and then the Dallas Mavericks going beyond this season as well. So yeah, let's hop right into the video. So, off the bat, there's a few things that we saw during Game 1 of this series that are just impossible to gloss over, Neither team was shooting particularly well from downtown, with the Dallas Mavericks shooting 11 for 48 from 3 and the Warriors shooting 10 for 29. Although not terrible by any means by the Golden State Warriors, it was definitely somewhat of an off night for Steph Curry, only shooting 7 for 19 from the field and only going 3 for 9 from 3. I think this is definitely something important to take note of. Obviously with their main guy, Steph, only putting up 21 points, I think it speaks to the personnel and depth of this team. With guys like, obviously, Clay, Draymond, Wiggins, and now the emergence of Jordan Poole. I think it's definitely the depth that was able to keep them in this game and ultimately win Game 1. And just staying with those guys in terms of their performance from Game 1 against the Dallas Mavericks, also kind of a quiet night for Clay, only shooting 7 for 13 from the field and putting up 15 points in 35 minutes of action. It's interesting to watch Clay out there still. You can tell he's definitely, getting his legs back at certain points, but then there's other points where he's, Game 6 Clay, hottest man on the planet, and nobody can touch him. But I think that's also what's going to be interesting with their matchup against the Boston Celtics, just the ability for certain guys to get hot and go cold, like in the snap of some fingers. But at the end of the day, this is going to be the NBA Finals, and I think that, with their experience and obviously being there so many times before and knowing that it's game time against this younger Boston Celtics squad, they can turn it on just like that. So definitely going to be something interesting to keep an eye out for. And then, moving on to Jordan Poole, we saw a lot of good things from Jordan Poole during this Game 1. He's one of those guys that can just go out there and get you a bucket, and I love that, honestly. I know the media kind of falls in love with his, flashy, somewhat street ball style of play sometimes, and don't get me wrong, I'm definitely a victim of that too sometimes, but I definitely think his effectiveness in terms of being able to come off the bench as a sixth man and run that second unit or seamlessly integrate with the starters in terms of, there's certain times where you saw the three guard lineup to, again, end some quarters, whether it be Clay, Steph, and Jordan Poole. And, I think that is definitely something that's going to be interesting to watch against this Boston Celtics squad, seeing as they have so much size and length and the defensive presence that they have as a team. Moving on to Draymond. Draymond in Game 1 of this series is, he did all right. I think what's going to be really interesting moving forward for this Golden State Warriors team against this Boston Celtics matchup is going to be the fact that Draymond has the ability to bring the ball up the floor. And, as a smaller, I guess, power forward and sometimes center, I think it's going to be a really interesting matchup against guys like Al Horford and maybe occasionally Robert Williams. But I think his ability to space the floor at that size and at that position, or somewhat at least, and really get into this motion offense and move without the ball as well and make the right passes, make the right plays, as we saw a little bit in this first game, is going to be it's going to play an important factor against the defensive bigs of Boston. Then the next guy, I guess, Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins, we saw a lot of, obviously, he had the defensive assignment of Luka throughout this series. So Game 1, what we saw a lot was just honestly really good physical defense from him on such a big guard, I guess, like Luka. And there's so many things that you have to cut off with that, obviously, with his playmaking ability, his scoring ability, ability to get to the rack pretty much whenever he wants, or, you have to watch out for the step back three with him. So I think he did a really good job containing him. And then conversely, on the offensive end, he did his thing. He had 19 points and shot 8 for 17. So not too bad. I think he's really stepped up. I know he took a little bit of a dip since All-Star break, but I think throughout these playoffs, we've really seen him be able to step up as that third and sometimes even second option on this Golden State Warriors roster that has so many different scorers, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think it's interesting because, obviously we've seen this roster with KD and how seamlessly of a fit that was and how easily they were able to make that work. And, obviously he's not KD, so it's not as perfect as it was before, like we've seen as NBA fans, but it's definitely a big help and has definitely been able to propel them into that next category of true contenders again, being able to really compete with pretty much anybody now, and especially on the defensive end, with him being able to take up the assignment of most superstars. I think that's going to be a good matchup to watch, whether it's him against Jalen Brown or Jason Tatum. I think that's going to be huge. Being able to force somebody else other than Tatum or Brown to score. Obviously, you have Smart to worry about. You have Horford to worry about in some instances. But, yeah, I think that's going to be a key matchup for this series going forward. Another one of the guys that I was super impressed with in terms of being able to step up and really take a leap during game one of this series was Kevon Looney. He was all over the boards. He had a ton of offensive rebounds and was really keeping them in the game, especially throughout the first quarter. And yeah, just his ability to really make the right reads, make the right plays. He had a couple blocks throughout this game. I think it's going to be a key matchup going forward against the Boston Celtics, especially because, obviously you can't run Draymond at the 5 spot for an entire game or even probably remotely that much at all against the true bigs of Boston with Al Horford and Rob Williams. So I think it's definitely going to be something important to keep an eye out for. Now, there's a few things I did want to say about Steph throughout game one of this series because, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he played bad by any means. I'm just saying the guy only made 7 shots throughout the whole game, which is, kind of low for what we've seen, the greatest shooter of all time do. I think that's really what's scary about this team is that, he only made 7 shots throughout this game, and they still had the biggest point differential throughout the entire series. With 87 to 112, that's ridiculous. So, yeah, I think that's what's scary about this team. It's not like they were even super on this game. There was a lot of shots that we saw like that, whether it be from Steph, Wiggins, or Clay especially, where you just thought, okay, these guys are going to make these shots. It's good looks. And they didn't. Sometimes they fall, sometimes they don't. It's like that sometimes, whatever. But, yeah, so just imagine when they are on, I think that's going to be something that's going to be kind of scary to see in this upcoming series against Boston. I think Boston is a little bit better equipped to deal with these guys, especially, on the defensive end, especially with their length and their guard rotation of, Marcus Smart and Jalen Brown out there. I think that's a lot better of a matchup. But, yeah, I think it's definitely going to be something that you should pay attention to going forward in this upcoming final series against Boston. Now, on the flip side, talking about Dallas throughout game one of this series, I think this game is really important to go over because it highlights some of the flaws that Dallas has obviously had been experiencing throughout this entire series, the entire season, and definitely experienced throughout game one of this series. In game one, we just saw that another example of how Luka can't make it happen on his own. And that's fine. I'm not saying that he should have been able to or should not have been able to. But it's just the league has come to this point where lone superstars are not going to get the job done. And as much as Jalen Brunson has been able to step up as a second option in most cases, that's not going to be able to get you guys past where you've already gotten. And, talking about the personnel of this Mavs roster, they have some shooters, obviously, talking about Reggie Bullock, Maxi Kleber to an extent, and Davis Bertans. But, when they're not hitting, they're not hitting. And on the defensive end, these 3 guys are not particularly amazing, and it's not like they're a real threat to drive and slash on anybody. So, yeah, it's kind of a one-dimensional offense as it stands right now. And just another example of how, when the offense is so stagnant like it is, especially with Luka on the floor versus with him not on it, when it's being ran by the other guards like Brunson and Dinwiddie, there's only so much you can do there, and I think that's just what was really exposed during this game one. So I think going forward is going to be really interesting, obviously beyond the season, to see if, if Brunson stays or if he doesn't. I saw that the Knicks just hired his dad as an assistant coach or something. So that'll be interesting to see where he ends up. And if they get a traditional big man, like a good big man, I know obviously the whole situation with Ayton, and I think that would be a great destination for him, to be honest. That would be amazing to see. But regardless, I think they're going to need to acquire a second star to really be able to get over this hump of not just like being able to compete, but really being able to contend for the title. And I think that was just something that we saw get exposed during this season, or this series. And then last thing I wanted to talk about was just Jalen Brunson. He's stepped up tremendously. I just wanted to talk about his emergence as a scorer, and the vision that he has as a playmaker is amazing. It's really great to see how he fits in with this Mavs offense. Being able to be that secondary ball handler and take some minutes off from Luka a little bit, get the ball out of his hands and not make everything ran through him. It's going to be interesting to see where he ends up. Like I said, if he stays, that's great. Obviously, they're going to have to pay the man, though, and with that being said, I don't know if that's money well spent or that's money should be spent elsewhere. The way I see it, he's a great player. He could be an amazing third option. He just doesn't necessarily put the team over the top if he's going to be that second guy in Dallas. So, yeah, as much as I love him, I think it's going to be a tough decision that they're going to have to come to, whether they sign him or spend the money somewhere else and put all their eggs into a different basket. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I think the next video that I'm going to be coming out with is either going to be a finals preview or a reaction to Game 1. I didn't get the chance to watch Game 1 yesterday. I saw that the Celtics won, obviously, but I didn't get to really see too much of it or anything. I was, trimming clips for this video. So, might do a reaction to Game 1 highlights or something along those lines. So keep an eye out for that. And then last thing I just want to leave you with is leave a comment down below. Who do you think the Dallas Mavericks should acquire to really be able to pair with Luka and get to that next stage of contendership? So yeah, thanks guys.